special action meeting preceding our regularly scheduled work session. The meeting is being videotaped for community cable channels. Individuals attending this meeting and intending to speak to the board should be aware that they are being videotaped. In order to meet the requirements of the Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, it is necessary to record the names of all citizens who speak to the board during the meeting. To assure compliance with this requirement, it is essential that those planning to address the board come to the microphone and state their name and address. Members of the audience are asked to limit their questions and comments to no more than 5 minutes. This limit will permit time for all those who wish to speak to the board to do so. Whenever members of the audience exceed this time limit, the board president may ask the individual to yield the microphone to the next speaker, and this is in reference to board policy 8344.2. At this time, would Jared Gamble and Jen Sykes lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome both of them this evening. Great article in the paper on the two of you the other day, front page story. And Jared, I have a trivia question for you. When was the last time any team ever came within 1 point of CB West in a football contest? No, that's not the answer. Okay, you can come back with that later. Okay, you write that down. All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to announce that there was an executive session of the Personnel Committee on October 6th at 12 o'clock. Also at this time, this is a special action agenda. At the adjournment of this special action opportunity, we will then go right into the work session. So if everybody would stay put, unless this portion takes a considerable amount of time, we'll let the cameras continue to roll and keep the cameraman there and then go right into the work session. But at this time, audience of citizens is your time. It's time for us to listen to you, address your concerns. If anybody wishes to speak to the board, please step forward and state your name and address.
Hi, Marla Darcy, Upper Gwynedd. First of all, I wanted to say that we went to 3 separate back-to-school nights this year at elementary, middle, and high school, and they were excellent. They were very well run, and we were very impressed with them. So I wanted to compliment the principals and teachers of those buildings. And also, I have a question. My son is in his 2nd year of marching nights, and I've had the privilege of working in the snack stand, and there are people who literally spend a second whole portion of their day there and work hours and hours. And I just have a question on their behalf. Are there any plans to get running water and safer electricity? I mean, people do wear plastic gloves, so things are as sanitary as possible. But are there plans? And
Mrs. Darcy, those talks of running water, electricity, upgrades to that stadium have been talked about for the last year. I anticipate upcoming plans for improvements in this next budget cycle coming up in February.
Oh, great.
Art Wood has been discussing that for a long time. He knows that stadium and that whole arrangement there better than anybody. Plus, with the incredible crowds that we are getting now, because winners produce crowds, we need to accommodate the crowds that we are getting and handling because of the marching nights, all the teams that play there, etc.
Yeah, and it's a matter of safety issues for the people working inside. And I mean, it's a great structure and everything. It just needs the other things.
That sort of thing's a win-win for everybody.
I have a question for Mr. Sierpinski. Mr. Sierpinski has circulated to Republican committee people the first issue of this, which is called Elephant Ears. And this is a newsletter for the North Penn Area Republican Committee. It says that it's called Board Watch. It's published and paid for by Sierpinski for North Penn, Sierpinski North Penn School Board. Then a second issue has come out, which is now called, it's also called Board Watch, but it's not called Elephant Ears anymore, with the same byline about paid for Sierpinski. And this says that it's going to be a letter for the North Penn School District community, although I have to point out on the back there's a note about a cocktail reception for Edwin Hall. I have a concern. in my opinion, and you can certainly answer this, when a person is elected to the school board, okay, politics are aside, and that person represents every individual in the community and every child in the community. I'm perplexed as to why you would find the necessity to write a newsletter personally when you, as a board, have a vehicle of the community update, and certainly anything that you would feel would be important enough should be information that is being shared with the community. So I guess my question is, how do you justify writing a letter to Republican committee people when once you're on the board, this is supposed to be a non-political representation of the entire community?
Well, first off, I don't give up my personal rights to do what I choose to do. Secondly, if anybody wants a copy of that, they're free to contact me, and I'll be glad to mail it to them. It's public information, supplied by the school district.
And the Sierpinski for North Penn School Board is what?
That is my committee that got me elected last year.
Okay, and this is being put out by, so this is being continued to be put out
My political committee, all right.
by your political
It's got
committee.
my name on it, my address, my phone number.
Let me just question you on one thing, because when you said it's public information being put out by the district, you mean
The information
you
contained
took
in
it from public information. That piece that she has in her hand is not put out by the district.
No, it's put up by me.
You compiled that from information from the district.
Correct.
Okay, I just
Okay,
want to
well,
make that clear.
then let me question. I think that perhaps if Mr. Sierpinski feels that there's a real need for this information to be put out to a portion of the community, then perhaps there's something that's lacking in the community update or in the publications that are going out to the rest of the community. And I just find this extremely offensive, and I know you don't give up your rights. No, you don't give up your rights as a private individual, but you're supposed to be representing all of us and all our children, and I just don't understand it, so thank
Mrs.
you.
Darcy, I don't understand why this came here this evening when that could have been a personal phone call to Mr. Sierpinski.
Because this is something-
Are you concerned that he's giving out more information or that he's giving out false information?
I'm not
Are you
addressing
accusing him
the,
of something you feel this board should deal with, or is this a private matter between you and Mr. Sierpinski?
there's no private matter between me and Mr. Sierpinski. However, I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm saying that the very publication of this is in and of itself inappropriate. That's my opinion.
Is it factual to the best of your knowledge? Are there
I'm
any
not
lines in there
I-
you need this board to deal with?
What?
Is there anything false in there we should deal with?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to get off on a tangent there, because you can argue numbers and representations and Pell numbers and all that, but that's not the point. Donna, I find it hard to believe that if a Democratic candidate sat up there and did the same thing, you wouldn't be offended.
I am not offended by anybody's personal mail to
All
anybody.
right. Well,
What
I just feel the community should be aware of
What I needed to clarify
it.
is you came here to this forum.
Right.
You addressed a full board. Is there
Right.
something we can do?
I want you to be aware of it, and I want the community to be aware of it.
Well, then,
Unlike-
Mr. Sierpinski, I am aware of it, and I thank you for adding me to your mailing list. Thank you, Mrs. Dorsey.
Madam President, if I may.
Sure.
In regards to Mrs. Darcy's question about the upgrades at the high school, at our last facilities meeting, I had asked Mr. Wood and Mr. Strobel to update our facilities binder, I guess, for lack of a better word, and come forward with what I would like to see and the committee members would like to see, a 5-year plan. I, for one, I'm a little tired of emergencies and things coming forward at the last minute. And hopefully that we can project and look down the road as to what maybe some of the things that we should address and budget for them accordingly, and put less stress on our budget and on the taxpayers of this community, and keep our facilities in good working order. So I just want you to know that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, please? Mrs. Penny.
Bobby Penniman, Lansdale Borough. Do we have an opportunity to speak during the second meeting tonight? Okay.
I believe
There
so.
wasn't anything on the agenda, so I'll hold some comments until then.
Answer the two categories.
Okay.
Wait a second. Mrs. Penny, are you talking about the work session
Yes.
or more this evening on this special action?
No, in the work session.
Yes.
There is an opportunity for us to speak in that time?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll hold some comments until then. I have had the distinct pleasure for the last couple of weeks of going to Gwynn Nor on Mondays and working with a second grade class and a fifth grade class as a computer aide, and I'll tell you, it is a blast. The kids, this is a lab that was set up at Gwyn Nor with cobbled together old equipment, and it doesn't always run really great, but the staff is doing a magnificent job of getting the kids in front of computers and having them actively engaged in learning, and I'm really enjoying myself. And the pitch that I would make to any people who have any interest at all in computer technology education for our children is that aides are desperately needed in all of the classrooms, and you don't have to be a terrible geek to be able to help as well as have some fun. So I encourage anyone who might be listening or watching to call their building and see if any assistance is necessary. And like I said, I'll hold a couple of my comments until later. Following on Mrs. Darcy's remarks, Mr. Sierpinski, I would very much like to be added to your mailing list as a representative of the bipartisan committee for the school board. I'm always looking for all kinds of perspectives and information to highlight in my website, the North Penn Web. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Penniman. Anybody else, please?
Hi, my name is Debbie Skyara, Upper Gwinnett Township. We're new to this area. I'm wondering, we have a son who's 5, who attends Gwinnett Square Elementary, who on days that I work attended daycare. The daycare comes and picks him up. On the days I'm off, he comes home on the regular school bus. I send a notice into the teacher of his schedule. I send a notice into the daycare of his schedule. Last Wednesday, that he was put on the regular school bus to come home when he should have been picked up by the daycare. The daycare has a whole other issue that they never questioned where he was and what happened to him. Teacher put him, he was in his right line. Teacher took him out of the line and put him in the regular school bus because that's what she assumed. That's where she assumed he was to go because he didn't have a lunchbox. So she figured I would have had a lunchbox if he was going to daycare. He was put on that regular school bus, and the bus driver came to the stop and dropped him off. Nobody was there for him. 2 hours went by before a neighbor found him. Is there policies, or should there be policies that this does not happen? Is there a bus policy that kindergartners are not supposed to be off the bus?
There are definitely policies and procedures to delivering children, bringing children in and taking children home from school. There are even greater policies, measures, and practices for kindergarten children particularly because they're young age, because they're half-day program. There's a regular driver, there's an alternate driver, and in the case of your situation, I was surprised that both of those folks were absent and a third driver was there.
That's right.
I have it's been brought to my attention, I've been brought up to speed, that all parties involved in that situation from Wednesday have been talked to, from the superintendent on down to all the parties involved with the exception of your son, and policies, practices, and procedures will be reiterated and gone over again with the parties. It's an unfortunate situation, and when you know, anybody who's a parent realizes it's chilling and harrowing and wouldn't want it to happen to them. So there's an immense amount of empathy and concern and apology on the part of the district for that matter. Nobody would want it to happen to them.
No, absolutely not, and I want to make sure it doesn't happen to him again or anybody else again.
Well, it certainly was a very merciful wake-up call, and I'm grateful that nothing happened to your son and that nothing happened to anybody else involved in the matter. It's a situation where it was unfortunate, but we were merciful and prevailed, and nobody was harmed. But it isn't something we'd ever want to go through again.
I mean, the most I was upset about, like the teacher called, was very apologetic. But she still has a problem, and I don't know if this will be addressed from her principal, of communication. You know, she doesn't check school bags. She doesn't, you know, she asks a 5-year-old, do you have notes? Well, if they say no, they say no. Is there a way to know that it's some kind of communication envelope folder, something that goes back and forth from parent to teacher is definitely going to be instated?
Or address that quickly.
Something that we've talked about today with Mr. Cotran, our transportation director, and it's something that we'll be reviewing very soon, like tomorrow, to determine if we have to change practices and procedures. And parents will be notified as to what changes we make. It's been a difficult experience. As Ms. Mingle has said, it's been a difficult experience for the drivers. It's kind of we go a step beyond, we believe, in training an alternate for kindergarten runs. Many districts don't do that. And it turned out that our alternate that day was putting a safety program on for kindergarten children in another building. So we had a second alternate. And we recognize that we need to revisit this tomorrow. We'll do that, and parents will be the first ones to know
And there's
what
also
changes we bring about.
There's also talk of better reinforcing situations where the child has a combination daycare and home life and a variety of changes in that child's school week. And so extra measures would be taken there too. And if any policies need to be adjusted, tightened up or changed, they would be brought forward to the policy committee through Mr. Sierpinski and also through the superintendent in administrative regulations.
Okay, and will the parents be notified of these policy changes?
If there's any changes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Or of copies that policy should have been done and was not done?
We will see that just as soon as we can, every kindergarten parent has a policy in their hand so that they understand. There's hardly a day goes by that we don't return to the bus garage with kindergarten children because there is not a parent at the stop. The unfortunate thing here is there was a parent, but it wasn't a parent assigned to that particular
That's
youngster.
right.
So we certainly will revisit this and get back to you in particular and all parents at the kindergarten level.
Mr. and Mrs. Sciarra, Dr. Robinson wanted to mention something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I work with the elementary buildings, and I did visit Gwinnett Square today to talk with the principal as well, and I did speak with the teacher this evening. I think your idea about having an envelope, a large envelope, and we've done this in the past, where notes can be put in the envelope and easily seen by the teacher is a good suggestion. I do think it should be stated that in talking to the teacher, notes had been given up until this week. She did not see a note, so I think it's only it's fair to put that on the table. She did not have a note. She had notes from you in the past.
Mm-hmm.
There has not been a problem in the past.
Mm-hmm.
This particular week, there was not a note that she could find.
But she did not look either.
W-
She states at her open house, I will not check school bags. Well, these are 5-year-olds.
The bottom line is she did not see a note. And up until this point, she has gotten a note
That's
from
right.
you. So for whatever reason, there was a confusion there. And her decision to put the child on the bus really stemmed from an assumption, you're correct, that she made because your son did not have a lunch box. He typically does have one, so she was really operating on past practice. What she did not know was that it was Pizza Hut Day at WeFolks. So, I mean, it was a mix-up in communication. And I think if you work with the teacher to have that large envelope easily seen, that whether your son goes right in and says, here's the note, or in some kind of way, I think that can be worked out. That would help with the situation.
Yes, it would.
Okay. I think she'd be very willing to do that.
Oh, I'm sure, and I'm not blasting this woman. You know, she went on assumptions and they were wrong. I just want to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Sure, and she wants to make sure, and so do we, that it doesn't happen again.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
Anybody else, please?
Good evening, H. Bruce Gordon, Montgomery Township. Will there be an interim committee assignment or committee assignment change prior to the December meeting? I believe Mr. Sierpinski stepped down from the committee this week, or are we shuffling people around to
No, I
meet
don't
that
think
need?
so.
We don't need to?
I don't think so. I'm confident with Mr. Allen on that committee, and with Mrs. Krieger, that in a situation there, if there would be a deadlock at a committee level, it has to come to the board anyway. And there isn't
Okay.
anything that can't get to the board. If there's a matter of great importance, it doesn't have to remain stuck in that committee. Any board member can bring it up under other business. So we'll just leave that well enough alone, and whoever the president is in December, they can choose to do what they wish with that committee.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else, please?
Linda Abram, Upper Gwinnett. Speak slowly. Mr. Mosey referenced his request, and I was at the facilities meeting for a 5-year plan. I think it's a great idea. I'd like to put my oar in now, and I've spoken to a couple of people about this already. I think we need to look at, and I'm speaking personally, there may be other issues to look at, I'm speaking personally about the Gwynnor Library. With technology advancing as quickly as it is in this district, and in light of the fact that the building, even with redistricting, will be housing a significant number greater than what we were originally built for, our library is sorely inadequate. Right now we are stumbling over pieces of equipment that both the district and Home and School has purchased for use by the students and the staff. And as we look at this 5-year plan, I would hope that, and I will again bring this to committee level at a facilities meeting, which I do attend. I would like the board to consider, when we come to budget time, the possibility of looking at our building for expansion in our library. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dillon. I agree with you that Mr. Mosey is right, that a 5-year plan is essential, and I see it more in terms of the history that we could possibly lose should Art Wood choose to retire after the high school addition is built. And I certainly wouldn't want to see a 5-year plan put together without somebody with the kind of knowledge that Mr. Wood has. So a 5-year plan would be timely in the event that Mr. Wood takes other plans.
Hi, Jerry Vigiletti, Hatfield Township. I'd like to mention a couple of things or ask a couple of questions, and I'm sorry I hadn't planned on this, but these things just came up. About the political thing, I don't know if this is the right arena for me to ask this, but in the past, my son's mother has received things at my house, and presently, for the past 2 years, she has not been a taxpayer at my house, but she is registered to vote. But as a taxpayer, I have not received certain things that I thought that I should have, and I don't know who sends them out. It's just a question that I've had of when we're sending things out, like there was a letter, a newspaper or something from the Taxpayers Association or something in the past.
Mrs. Darcy was referencing a personal letter I sent.
Well, this one's different. I'm talking about a couple of years ago or a year or some time ago. There was like a little newspaper or something. Now, like I say, I don't know who all this stuff comes from. All I know is that it's to the taxpayers, and I've never received anything. But my son's mother has, and you know, she's not a taxpayer per se. And I just wonder, as a taxpayer, am I not entitled to this stuff, and why isn't it sent to me? It's only sent. We're talking about the political avenue of this.
Yeah,
all this stuff is sent.
That's not what the
It's nothing to do with us.
Yeah, those kind of pamphlets, flyers, brochures, newsletters, informative pieces that could come from any entity in the community, I can't account for that. But
Okay.
if there has been a change in the composition of your home between you and your wife, and change of ownership, interests, etc.,
Right.
all you have to do is go right into your son's school, and here, there specifically, because they have special things that go out from their school or through Ms. Liberowski, and get that change of address. Families are doing it every day because, of course, they change.
Well, mine personally hasn't changed in 10 years. I've lived at that house, and I've paid taxes
Okay,
at
but
that house for 10 years. And in 10
they're
years, I have not received any. And I'm not blaming anybody here. And like you said, this is not a board thing necessarily. That's my question is.
Okay, well, the pieces I would be concerned about is you not receiving pieces that would come from this school district to you.
I get my tax bill.
You can't hide. That's all we can account for, is the mailings that leave our school
From the-
district.
right.
Everything else I can't answer for you.
Okay.
You might want to check that with your local post
Well,
office.
then, I'm just stating to you then that there are things sent out to the taxpayers that aren't really sent to the taxpayers, just so you know. Because, as I said, I'm a taxpayer, and in 10 years, I don't think I've
You're not
received
gonna
anything
Okay.
that way.
Just one quick comment. I found that it usually has something to do with voter registration.
Right,
That's all it talks about.
right. And I'm not a citizen of this country, so I don't vote. And so that's why I don't get anything through voter stuff.
For voter registration.
My point is, though, that I pay taxes. If I'm entitled to taxpayer things, then I should get them as well.
Right.
But I don't mean to, you know. And the other thing was about the bus. These people had a terrible experience. And I've wondered a few times myself what happens when my son comes home on the bus if I wasn't there, like if I got in an accident on the way home or something and one is unable to get there in time to meet him. Or if they had a new bus driver and they were early or whatever. I've asked a couple of times and I've got kind of different answers. He rides a special ed bus, so it's a little different. They can take a little more time with him. Who do I contact to discuss questions? As I said, I've had a couple of different answers.
You would call into the Transportation Department and ask for Mr. Cotran, John Cotran.
Talk to him directly.
And he can give you a direct, straight answer on
Okay.
specifically your child, your route, your situation.
You said the bus garage?
Yes.
That number's not in the book. Call here and get it.
Don't leave, we'll give you the number.
Well, if it's on the calendar, I'll get it. I have it
Okay.
on the calendar.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vigilante. Anybody else, please? Anybody? Going once?
Time's up.
Okay. Superintendent's report. Assistant Superintendent's report.
That's right.
Okay.
Going in for Dr. Hasser, who's not doing very well. First of all, on the agenda, 2A, recommend approval to cancel the action meeting scheduled for October 22nd, 1998.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Shapinsky, second by Hill. A question, should we add there when that meeting is rescheduled?
That's not required as far as
Okay,
action is concerned.
very good. We'll announce it then after, if this passes, we'll announce what that new date would be. Any other questions, to the left or right?
I have a question.
Mr.
We're going
Mosley?
to cancel a meeting and then you're just going to announce when the next meeting date will be?
Announce and I believe publish.
I would just like to say that the first I knew that the meeting was being canceled or changed was the heads up I received last week, and I went back and saw it was on the week before. I just thought that as a courtesy, because I know myself, when we set these dates down a year in advance, I personally go through my calendar and try to arrange my schedule so that I can be at these meetings and there was no memo, no phone call or anything. The only thing I see on
Well,
here,
that's what
the only thing I see on here is the calendar.
Okay, that's what the
That's
What's
what
Up
I
is
noticed.
about. It's an informative piece to the full board.
Well, I know, but
And I got calls from enough people that told me I didn't have a quorum to hold the meeting that evening.
so you're saying that we're going to have at least 5 or 6 people that cannot make that meeting on that date?
At least 5 or 6. Has to be at least 5. That's correct.
That's the only concern I had.
And the only thing we're going to do is move it up by 2 days. Any other questions to the left? Right?
I guess I have to say my point of view here, because so many times during the course of the year, our calendar is very inconvenient. Illnesses, birthdays, anniversaries, back-to-school nights, 4 out of 5 years that I've had to miss. The last September meeting, every one of us with children in the middle school had to miss their child's back-to-school night. It wasn't just cause to cancel a meeting and reschedule. I have asked Dr. Hasser to take that into consideration next year. It's one of the biggest events for us as parents. It also serves as well as board members. I've attended board meetings in snowstorms, and as a matter of fact, a state of an emergency meeting one night. Tragedies have hit close to home, affecting our board as a whole even at times. And this is the first time in a very long time that outside of terribly bad weather, that there's been an advance cancellation and change of date, and I'm just a bit concerned. In the past, all those reasons had to be put aside because we had heavy responsibilities and we had a calendar to follow. I just hope we're not changing our message to any excuse will do. And that, I have to say, because I do have to explain to my children many times during the course of the year why I have to maintain a meeting date, despite its inconvenience and seriousness to the rest of my family. We all miss meetings at times, but for 5 board members to have to be absent on the same meeting night, and cause the full cancellation of a meeting, I think is a very unfortunate situation, and it flies in the face of many of our own personal inconveniences that not just board members, but also our administrators have to deal with as we go through this very tedious meeting schedule that we have. And that's why I really can't support the change. I will do my best to be here on October 20th, though, as it passes.
Ms. Mangle?
Well, first of all, Mr. Scher, I don't believe that there is any message going out there, nor do I wish you to create a message. Secondly, we have canceled meeting dates because we've canceled them when those meeting dates were scheduled a year in advance by error, or when they fell on a holiday that we were unaccustomed to recognizing. And I've been here longer than you, so I know what I'm talking about. Secondly, I think if there has ever been a situation where 5 board members couldn't make a meeting night, we would, in fact, whether it's you or anybody else, 5, there's no quorum, there can be no meeting. To try and cast that there's some sort of fiendish plot, I take offense to. I think it's ridiculous, it's nitpicking, and the worst thing that's happening here is we're going from the 22nd to the 20th. And some of the change in the schedule this month was due to the third Thursday and the second Tuesday not being traditionally laid out because of the 5 weeks in October, and also the Jewish holidays were affected. So there's no red herring here. There's no quorum, there's no meeting, and we all put in plenty of time, and most of us are employed.
Do, and most of us have the standards of attendance, travel.
And some better than others.
Mr. Chair, I wish you would also consider your own words when you say to the board and everybody else, when you know I can't make a 4:30 Finance Committee meeting when we want to discuss a state corrective action plan, you move it from 6 o'clock to 4:30. You know I work for a living. I don't know what you do, but I work for a living. I can't leave my job to come to something at 4:30. Please consider that also.
Frank, and I did, and I worked with Carol. The administration approached me because of Yom Kippur.
You could have moved.
So you're in the same situation this calendar was in. Any other
Pardon me?
questions before I move for action?
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Sir?
Recommend award of the following bids to be cooling tower at North Penn High School and electrical upgrade to elementary school.
So moved.
There's a motion by Schilling.
Second.
There's a second by Hill. Questions to the right? Left?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
Just Art. The bids came in substantially less than we anticipated for the electrical upgrades at the elementary schools. This is complete. This is everything we had to do. The full boat.
Great.
It's great that we're coming in under the gun. Has anybody put any consideration to what we're going to do with this when it's done? This project should be wrapped up in a few months, right?
Our completion date, our anticipated substantial completion is February 1. And we did have a bid of 1.4, so that kind of reflects our budget at 1.6. We're not saying we won't have contingencies. When you're in 13 buildings, you run into some unknowns. We may have a few. On top of the bid award you make tonight, we have the engineering fee, which is 5%, so we're looking at another $50,000. But it's still an excellent price, and it's a responsible bid from someone that has done a lot of this work. Most recently, Bonavita Kohler Wire did the electrical upgrades at Norristown Area School District. He has done about 6 other projects for us, including Penndale Middle School renovation. So we have a good comfort level with Michael, and we know that he will be very responsible in performing his work. The majority of the work will occur between 3:30 and 11:30 at night.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what I wanted to make sure of, because that was the next question I was going to ask. Was this going to be done after hours again on weekends like it was before?
Specified after hours.
Madam President, I'd just like to make a recommendation or a request that the Finance Committee, after this job is complete, it makes a recommendation for the additional funds and what to do with them. Because obviously this thing's going to net, or cost a lot less than we anticipated.
I've already allowed for that, Mr. Sierpinski. I spoke with Mr. Wood yesterday, and I mentioned the vagueness of the letter, and this was not to be critical, but it is vague about we will have engineering fees and contingencies. And I asked him that that he could come forward with the board in some sort of memo form as soon as possible what the total cost of this is going to be. I mean, we can see right now we're saving about $635,000. But I'd asked him if he could possibly, as soon as possible, come forward with the final price tag.
We also have concerns on that.
Because I'm a little concerned with the fact that we have $635,000 sitting out there, and I don't want it disappearing.
Sure. Well, that's all I wanted to say.
Anybody left? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you.
Item 2B, recommend concurrence with the findings of the audit report and approval of the corrective action plan for audit years 1994-95 and 95-96, identifying corrective steps taken.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Moses, second by Shar. Questions left?
Just one comment, I would like to thank Mrs. Detty for making the changes that we requested in committee and putting in the dates so that anybody that looked at information won't see that we're tardy or we haven't been addressing some of the concerns that came out almost a year ago. Thank you.
I just want to make sure that everybody on the Finance Committee is in fact in agreement with this corrective action plan. So I wanna
Well,
know
my main
before I vote.
concern was to show the fact that we had begun
Right.
corrective actions prior to the state auditors
But you're in
coming in.
agreement.
And I was
What
looking
it's
for,
doing,
Bill, as
it's
you
being
know,
done.
I was looking for more detail, actually, but Carol's saying less is better at that meeting. No, in other words, there is really strong specifics behind each one of these ambiguous statements. But her understanding from the state office was that they really didn't want that level of detail, Bill.
Okay.
So I'm gonna trust that she's been advised well.
Thank you.
To the right?
Carol, we're just gonna wrap up the state audit issue for us.
This will wrap up the 1995 and 1996 state audit. And as far as I know, the procedure of having a corrective action plan and also the requirement to have each board member sign off that they've seen the corrective action plan tonight appears to be a new procedure. So I'm not sure if there's other new procedures that we haven't been told about. As far as I know at this time, this is the end of that particular state audit.
Okay. This audit has been some positive history for this board, and Mrs. Betty, I thank you for your involvement with it, and I'm glad that you're here to help us with it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a board committee meeting. This is a work session of October 13th, 1998. This meeting did follow a special action meeting held earlier at 7:30, beginning at 7:30. Curriculum and instruction, Dr. Beno.
Yes. Item number 1, there are 4 items that we wanted to discuss tonight. All of these were discussed in committee meetings prior to this evening with the various committees, the curriculum committee, and I know in sports services, special education also had a meeting earlier. The item number 1 is something that Dr. Hassel wanted to speak to and talk about in some depth, and so I'm going to defer that item until he's able to speak to it. You probably have read somewhat about the Pennsylvania Department of Education Special Incentive Awards. We've had these awards granted to 8 of our schools for either academic improvement or achievement improvement or attendance improvement. There's a number of details associated with this report, and Dr. Hassel wants to talk about those details and the aspects of how those awards are going to be determined and how those awards are going to be used by the different schools. Hearing that, we'll wait till the 20th for Dr. Hassel to report.
Sure.
Item number 2 on the agenda is the student enrollment update. Betty, you want to make some comments about that?
Doctor, that's a question in a row. This item is going to be put on the agenda at a later date.
For October 20th.
Dr. Hassel wanted to give a report on the 20th.
There's no action to be taken, is there?
No.
No.
So that, we're not going to discuss number 1 tonight. That'll be.
I wanted to defer that.
Thank you.
She goes to Frank. No, never mind, please.
An update on the enrollment at the elementary school. As you might recall, at the last month's meeting in September, we had some classrooms that were oversubscribed as it relates to our classroom guidelines. Since that time, aides have been hired in all of those classrooms. One aide was hired for NAP school at the kindergarten level, one for Polk School at grade 6. One aide was hired for the morning session at Oak Park in kindergarten, and 2 aides were hired at Oak Park 2nd grade, and 1 at 6th grade for NAP. So at this point, we have all of those classrooms covered. All of our classrooms, other than those, are at or under the guidelines, with the exception of 1 which we're monitoring.
Okay. Any further report from
Other
Dr.
than
Venable?
to indicate that we also monitor secondary enrollment, and please be aware that we keep track of the enrollments that occur in the secondary schools, middle school and high school as well. If we see needs or adjustments in schedules, we do make those periodically. We do our best to keep on top of it. That question came up in the committee, and I thought it needed to come from that.
Okay, one moment. Solicitor, may I have my agenda? I'm sorry. Thank you, appreciate it. I just need to, we'll take some board questions in terms of the student enrollment. I do have some questions and just some things I needed pointed out to me in the secondary area. Dr. Venable, let me take your list. Dr. Robinson, total high school right now? Do you have that broken down with you?
Total high school
We have the
enrollment?
10,
Yeah, that 10-day.
total high school is 2,000. Are you including the technical career center?
Yes, if there are.
2,770.
Okay. Does the audience have this 10-day? No. You're going to get it. You're going to get, Mr. Golden?
Wait a minute. Madam President, we have the 16th day enrollment to take forward.
Well,
You
this-
receive
update.
16th, there's also a 10th day that you receive.
well, let's get, well, this is,
10th day is the standard.
okay, well, I'm going to talk from this one, and I want them to have what I'm
Which one
talking
is
about.
that?
So updates, why do we have a 16-day?
16th day.
10th day is more traditional.
10th day is what's required by the state. This is a 16th, but it's a House document, and I'm just going to have it run off and give it to you. I guess I want to point out, I can't help address it, and I think we need to as a board, because we've come to that point in time. The senior high school, as quoted by Dr. Robinson, and she's correct, is 2,398, 2 kids shy of 2,400. Over at the Technical Career Center, there's 374, and there was really some great articles this week in our local paper, Mr. Dwayner, on the VOTEC. So you've probably read what's happening over there. They're going through the roof, and it's just in time for their new addition. For a total, given that 374 of them are at the VOTEC, of 2,772 students. And I need to bring to your attention, and I'm going to need a little help from administrators here to help back this up that have been here from the past. This was the month, last month, September, was the month we were to open up the second high school on Keenest Road had it been built. And I can't help but wonder who would have gone there. There's still less in there today with 374 of them at the tech school, and they all come back than when I was there in 73. And 75 was an even larger class. It just has to be pointed out, we would be paying taxes on $52 million plus second high school in the corner of Montgomery Township. Now, for those that have just been through reassessment and felt whacked, and for those that got their tax bills this summer and felt bamboozled, can you imagine how you would have felt had you started paying for that high school? Any administrators wish to help me out on this, I'd appreciate it, or any other board members, but for some of you that have seen the ebb and flow of enrollments through the years, Dr. Venema? and Mr. Wood, Dr. Robinson. This was, looks to me like the decision of the decade. So I'm going to have this passed out to all of you, if I can find Mr. Golden, and we'll get copies and get it out there to you. Are there any questions or comments on student growth for elementary, secondary, or whatever?
Barbara's question. Don?
Yes.
I asked about that, checking those numbers that were in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Now, can we at least concede that that number of 28 student average has to be wrong?
That's incorrect.
Yes, and when I read that in the paper, I knew it was totally illogical. I brought it up at committee, and I just think it should be on record here for anyone that cut them out and compare and want to say, look at that Pearl Hersham, look at Wissahickon. That 28 isn't correct, and I think we should do something about seeing that in future years as accurate reporting and in a more timely fashion, perhaps for the next action meeting. See if we can pull together what our actual average class size is for all 3 grade levels.
I can certainly do that, and you're correct, it was erroneous. Certainly our class size average is not 28 at North Penn High School.
Right, we knew that.
How that data was submitted to the Inquirer for their report, I don't know the answer. We've been researching that since I spoke.
Did somebody misunderstood what was to be represented?
Well, it depends on how the information is passed on and then how it's interpreted and compiled for the report. And it happened, I know when Dr. Bose was here, and I don't have the data that was sent on to that report. I'm going to look for that.
Okay.
And of course, we can give you some actual numbers that are closer to
Well, I think it would be good to
reality.
set the record straight at the next action meeting if we can. Thanks.
Okay, to the left, any comments? Questions? Okay. Special education classroom aides.
Lou.
Yeah, we're requesting 3 additional special education classroom aides from now until the end of the year. 3 aides are going to be funded through the IDEA fund, which is federal dollars that we can use for emergency situations such as this. The 3 aides, one will be at Walton Farm, one will be at Montgomery, and one will be at Kendale. And they're needed in order to implement children's IEPs.
We'll have that on the agenda for next time. Any questions?
Sure, Mr. Rusnak, any, those 3 aides, any specific area of special education?
One is in life skill support, and the other 2 are in emotional support.
Kendale's emotional support?
Yes. And Montgomery's emotional support.
Any questions left? Right?
Lou, just to be sure, these aides aren't really able to be used for the student-teacher ratio, are they? I don't.
No, that's only.
This is simply reinforcement because of the particular needs, they're not going to be used to play with those ratios, just so everyone doesn't misunderstand that
That is correct.
an attempt on our part.
Right.
Okay, so just additional reinforcement because of the thing.
Because it needs to be kids.
Okay. High school initiatives update.
Yes, at our curriculum committee meeting, Dr. Cotter gave a report on some of the initiatives that are going on at North Penn High School, in addition to preparing for the opening of the addition in the fall, which is a huge undertaking itself. There are other things that are going on at North Penn that we discussed in committee, and I wanted to give you an update about those activities. First of all, there's a graduation project that the board has heard about. It was discussed last year, and it's reflected in the program of studies regarding the requirement of the state that all students beginning with the class of 2001 complete a graduation project that involves developing a project with a group of teachers, making a report on that project, and presenting it to a group of staff members prior to graduation. The intent, of course, is that all the classes following the class of 2001 would also have that responsibility. There's a lot of work that goes into preparing for that eventuality. There are a number of staff members that are involved in a committee that is working out the details of that. We're talking about class of 2001. We're talking about our current 10th graders. And so that initiative continues. Dr. Cotter simply indicated that The project continues. There will be regular updates about the status of that project as the year goes on and as we progress into their 11th grade year. We anticipate that there'll be a lot of work necessarily from a lot of people, and they'll give us status reports periodically throughout the year regarding that particular effort.
Is that individual projects?
Those are individual projects
For graduation.
The student must graduate in order to graduate.
Is there anything in there that would preclude a student from having an individual graduation project that is spiritual or religious in nature?
I don't believe so. Certainly there are projects that students will initiate
Like mission
as
work?
part of any of their curriculum
Okay.
efforts. The community involvement component is something that is a basic. Community includes everyone.
Religious society. Okay.
Yes,
Questions to left. Mr. Mosey.
Yeah, I would just like to say I spoke to Mrs. Krieger, and she's not here tonight because her daughter was seriously injured over the weekend in a soccer match. But I did not make her curriculum meeting, but she did want to convey that there were still some items that were still open, and also the academies concept.
I haven't gotten to that one yet.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. I beg your pardon.
I'm sorry.
The second project is the Accreditation for Growth initiative that is the format of middle states evaluation that the high school has chosen to initiate. This is a goal-setting process that will involve committee members from the community, from the school, from the faculty, from the staff members at the high school, as well as the administration, that will determine special goals for how North Penn High School can improve. The middle states evaluation process is sponsored by the Middle States Association and is the governing body that grants accreditation to high schools. And in the past, there's been a traditional method for visitations by this Middle States organization, and this occurs every 10 years. This particular effort, and we're coming due, I believe, for most of the effort to occur next year, is a goal-setting initiative that Dr. Cotter explained last year, I know at one time, and the board actually approved the format under which this process is going to occur. The effort that he's making is going, as I said, will involve goal-setting by the entire staff, and it will affect and be part of it will involve the community to a very large degree in helping to set these goals. I know that this is a process that takes a good 2 years to complete, and there'll be a lot of opportunity for input from the community and in the school itself regarding these goals. The goal development system is very closely tied to our results initiative. Dr. Cotter has had many meetings with both Dr. Hasser and myself regarding the status of this and the connections that exist between the results initiative and the accreditation for growth effort. The third initiative has to do with the concept called academies. Academies are a structure for delivering instruction particularly in very large schools, that help to reduce the size of that school by organizing various groups around different career initiatives. This effort is something that Dr. Cotter has been exploring for some time, that he's examined with a number of teachers in the high school, and it's a concept that this group of teachers and he are exploring and we'll be looking at over the next year with some ideas about how we might bring that forward. At the moment, it's in the idea stages. There's been a lot of excitement about the possibility of finding ways to reduce the size of the high school and by creating smaller learning communities in different focus areas. And as he continues to develop that idea, he'll bring us reports and be sharing the concept with you. If there is any need for any kind of funding to help support this effort, that would come forth at the appropriate time. But the idea is something that needs to be fleshed out quite a bit more. And He's working on that and will be coming back to us. Those are the three initiatives aside from getting ready for the opening of that high school.
Okay, question about the academies. Dr. Venway, you were there in the 70s when there were majors claimed for certain students, and you can claim a biology major, and I claimed a phys ed major. They have phys ed majors that help with classes and stuff like that. Is that similar? Select a career path and then have a curriculum?
There are some similarities. One of the differences is that there's a group of teachers that would work together on developing coursework that would match up with the career focus that a student might choose. It's not the same as choosing a major in college by any means, but it's more like choosing a category of study. And you may recall years ago we had students did make a choice with respect to the kinds of courses that they wanted to take, business, liberal arts, and so forth. But this is focused primarily, or to focus primarily on the 5.0 level students. And we feel that there are initiatives going on with our 4.0 level groups, with our tech prep program. Of course, we do offer honors programs that are appropriate for all of our students intending to go on to school and study those areas in depth. And this is primarily to deal with the 5.0 students, which are the bulk of the population at North Bend High School.
Okay, thank you. It's exciting. Questions, right?
John, is there some literature out there that could help us separate what you're describing from, say, the teaming concept, which it seems like it's essentially a teaming concept with just a discipline track attached to it?
It's certainly a variation. It's teachers working together in groups of students making decisions about a career path or career general categories. So it does have a teaming component to it.
Or schools within a school?
School within a school is probably a better match, better description.
That's essentially, it's very similar, or just perhaps another name to the very same?
Well, it's a variation of that. And I think
Okay.
as he brings forth further information about it and we discuss it in subsequent months, that you'll learn more about the details of what the idea is.
Well,
the idea itself is just unfolding.
Yeah, I understand that from what he said at the committee level, but if there is some, nothing too bulky, but some educational articles or some reference information that he's already gathered that's easily understood, I'm a layman, I would appreciate it if he forwarded on just so I can get a general picture of where they're headed or what they're considering. It would help
So we can
have an
get you a
understanding
summary.
of it, because I know there's already been questions sparked from the discussion and the coverage in the newspaper already, asking what it is, and what does it mean, and I couldn't quite grab the difference, so I would appreciate that.
Certainly some kind of summary of the effort so far can be put together.
And what the change in implementation would be.
Already, Phil, any questions? Okay, gentlemen. Anything further on the curriculum and instruction, Dr. Miller?
That's it.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, curriculum and instruction, a couple of areas were covered. Any questions? Please come forward.
H. Bruce Gordon, Montgomery Township. 2 years ago, the board voted down a second high school. I would think this subject would be dead by now. I really don't think we need to keep bringing it up, Mrs. Mangle. I am concerned as a parent in Montgomery Township that there's still development not only in Montgomery Township yet to be done as the work crews come through and level more land and get ready to put more townhouses in there. I understand Transportation Group has a handle on what's going on with developers and can try and predict how many students might be coming through. I know we have a redistricting committee coming up, and that right now the focus is on 3 elementary schools. I'm willing to bet my bottom dollar it goes district-wide, but we'll see how that goes. But there's a major bubble of students coming through in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades. I believe the numbers are approximately 3,200 students. Certainly not all of them go to the high school. They splinter off. They go to private schools or the local Catholic or archdiocese schools and so on. So we won't see all of them come through. But I wouldn't toot our horn too early. I mean, I think the high school right now and the addition we're going to put on is going to be okay for the foreseeable future. But watch as that bubble comes through, because we've got modulars at our middle schools that we're in right now, and we've got roughly can't remember the number off the top of my head, about 900 kids in each 8 to 900 kids in each of the middle schools, and that's before this bubble hits. And when this bubble comes through, we're looking at middle schools that have 3 grades in them. The high school, as we're touting it right now, has 3 grades in it. Most districts, high schools, have 4 grades in it. So we've compacted a number of students in our middle schools, and I'd be concerned that the bubble's coming through, and let's not take our eye off that. Let's watch the growth very carefully, and certainly also what developers are doing and selling for housing. I know we can't get that information up front. We can't solicit realtors for information. We just have to hope that when people register for school that they tell us about all their siblings. Recently was brought to my attention that we can't even necessarily depend on our kindergarten numbers because some people, due to daycare situations, may not be putting them in our half-day kindergarten. They may be opting for full daycare rather than AM or PM kindergarten, so we don't even know what those numbers are till they hit first grade. So we've really got to just be cautious about what numbers we're touting and how well we're doing with our crowding. I think parents that see overall the district seems like it's got space, seems like we're well below our Pell numbers and so on. If you talk to an individual parent that has their kid in a classroom of 28, 29 kids with a classroom aide to help out, that doesn't appease them. They're thinking that their child that's their concern, is not getting the quality education that they may otherwise get if their class size was smaller. So in the district as a whole, an individual parent may not feel real good about the fact that we think we have a lot of room to spare.
Mr. Gordon, you have some pretty good insight. Dr. Benham and I were reviewing some of the numbers tonight, and you showed me a preliminary plan of all of the, to the moment, developments, proposed developments. We're trying to come up with some averages right now. It's pretty difficult to do. But an offshoot of the redistricting statistics that they'll come up with will be what you're talking about, so that we don't overcrowd our schools.
When I met,
they are looking at it. That's part of what they're doing. And I don't want to go too far into that.
Yeah.
Because that's what the committee's working on. But that we eventually will see something to give us an idea, so it's not so something so we won't be blindsided.
Just as a parent, I met through Art Wood's suggestion with Mr. Coltrane, his transportation director, sometime during the summer, and asked him, how do you know? How do you know how many buses to plan for when new developments come up? And he led me to the fact that indeed they get together with the developers and try and gauge, based on past developments, how many houses and how many kids move into these houses, because we can't ask the question. So based on that kind of information, we make our best guess, and God bless them for getting it right so far, so that's great.
There's very little land left to develop. Back in the 70s, they had a tough time.
Yeah.
There were bad calls because there were bad numbers, and there was lots of fields and ground that was subdivided in parcels that wouldn't have been done that way now.
Right.
So there's very little land left. So the science of it is getting more and more exact in our favor. It's not a matter of tooting any horns, but Bruce, let's face it, facts are facts. Let's not pretend that second high school wouldn't have been up in September. Let's recognize from the facts of the numbers presented by the administrators that at this point in time we don't need it. Yes, I know about the pig and the snake in those grades, and this board met the growth challenge at the elementary level, at the junior high level, and at the high school level. It's beyond tooting horns. Those of us that survived 95 are stating facts. It's not saying I told you so. It's saying we're glad we didn't spend that money, your money. That's what we're saying. And I don't think we should go through September and October and not deal with the fact of what this community was torn up about in 95. We have to address it, and now we can go past it because we've gotten past that point in time.
Let's just keep our eye on those numbers and the developments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else, please?
Bobby Penniman, Lansdale Borough, still. The curriculum meetings are going to get very interesting in the next little while. I'm very pleased to hear about the initiatives that are going on at the high school, particularly interested in the academies and school within a school concept. I would request one more time, however, that we make every effort to schedule committee meetings when members of the public are actually able to attend them, and actually that some board members might be able to attend them who are interested. Scheduling meetings at 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30, or even 5 o'clock is unconscionable. Those are traditional business hours. And I am fortunate to have a somewhat flexible work schedule, that I have my Mondays off, and my Mondays are now devoted to the North Penn website, and as I mentioned earlier, the time that I spend at my local school doing some assistance work. I can't take any more time off of work to attend other important business, and I know many other people feel the same way. Please. One of the concerns that I would like to bring to that committee is that as our high school grows, and I don't think there's anyone who anticipates that it's going to shrink. And, you know, as an aside, Ms. Mengel, I think you would be surprised to hear, as I had been on the opposite side of the issue of building the second high school as yourself, I think you would be surprised to hear how many times I have said publicly and in written form in the last month, no, I'm sorry, the high school in Montgomeryville is a dead issue. We have to move on and find ways to make the new high school work. You would be surprised to hear those words coming out of my mouth. No. But I can change, I can learn, I can grow. What I'm concerned with, as our high school is increasing in size, is that we provide, and I've talked about this many times at this podium, we provide adequate opportunities for our children to participate in the full range of academic and non-academic pursuits at the high school level. When we're suiting up 90 kids to play football, does number 88, 89, 90 ever have a prayer of going onto the field?
Yes.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
You have 85.
Absolutely. I have 85.
That's
You don't know what
85.
you're talking about.
You're on the board, Mr. Schilling.
You don't know what you're talking
Oh,
about.
that's not fair.
No,
You don't
that
know
is
what you're
fair.
talking about.
I do know what I'm
No,
talking
you don't.
about. I talk to
Yeah,
plenty
so I
of
can- I can
people.
state my
Wait a minute,
comment.
wait a minute, wait a minute.
You have a
John,
sophomore team, a JV
John.
team, and a varsity team.
Mrs. Penniman, to mention that he's on the board and that's why, implying that's why his kid plays, that's bad.
It is bad.
That's bad. Please don't do that again.
Yeah, please
I
don't.
can't make you, but please don't do that again. We wouldn't do that
I'm
to your
entitled to
child.
my opinion.
No, you're not.
We
Not
wouldn't
here.
do
That's
that
a
to your
lie.
child.
I'm entitled
You're
to
a
my
liar.
opinion.
You are a liar.
John,
I didn't,
Attack my
John,
kid, you.
John.
Mr. Schilling, I did
How
not
dare
attack
you.
your child.
Tell us who my
Mrs.
boys.
Penniman. All right, both of you, please. John, that's unfortunate. All
Leave
right,
my
Mrs.
kids
Sherman.
out of it.
I agree. Let's all keep each other's kids out of it.
Number 84, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. Those children, in my opinion, have very little opportunity to play on a varsity level football team. My interest is in ensuring that we give children the opportunities that they're entitled to.
Ms.
That's my
Penniman,
concern.
Nobody's child is being cheated if you're referring to the football team. There are not approximately 90. We don't even go into how many are injured. Players on the football team. We carry 6, 7 coaches and 3 teams, a full squad 10th grade, full squad junior high, full squad varsity. And they get to dress in a variety of opportunities depending on their ability, weight, size, and class. We have more football than we've ever had.
We have more kids than we've had in many years.
Not true. I just said that earlier. There were more here when I was here. We're getting more football players, but again, it helps to win. Kids go out for winning teams. They're not picking splinters out of their butt anymore, trust me.
Kids also go out for teams where they feel that they'll have an opportunity to participate.
That's why we have so many. These boys can count.
That's
They
my,
can go get jobs
that's
at the
my
Acme.
concern, is that our children have an ample opportunity to participate.
There's plenty
That
of
if
it.
someone wants to go out and be in our, a choral group, a drama club, whatever, that they feel as though they have an opportunity to shine as their individual abilities permit them to do so. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else, please? Anybody?
Yeah.
Sure, come on up. Are you on a football team? Do you play?
I did at Coatesville, but I had a question about Mr. Venemo's.
Wait, one moment, sir. Can I have your name?
Neil Craig,
Address?
124 Banbury Avenue, North Wales, PA 19454.
It's required. Trust me, it's required. Go ahead.
Yeah, you were talking about your academic career program. I had a question. If somebody decided to change their field or something, would that affect his or her education, and what provisions would be made?
No, that's a good question, but no, it won't affect their education. Certainly the requirements as far as graduation are concerned, the kinds of courses that every student must take in different disciplines would remain the same. It's just an opportunity, there's a lot of electives in the high school. It's an opportunity to focus on certain areas. For example, if you're interested in the sciences, you might want to elect more science courses as you move into your junior and senior year. You may choose to take more business courses, but the opportunities are wonderful there, as you know, and so students would have an opportunity to still choose the electives, but maybe to focus them in a particular area, and maybe work with a few teachers together on the kinds of interest that a student has. Or business or science or social studies.
Excuse me, but wouldn't that affect your overall education? Because from what I took in, that high school is supposed to give you like a broad perspective, and you go into college, so you'd be rounded throughout all fields. Maybe like a certain field wasn't you didn't fit in. So wouldn't that kind of mess you up or screw you over somehow?
Well, certainly we wouldn't do anything to mess you up. But let me say that the required courses for English and social studies and mathematics and science and the other options that exist in languages and so forth are all going to be there, and there's certainly enough periods in the day to load up a student's schedule with any and all of the courses that they're interested in. So I'm convinced as this concept is developed that we're not going to shortchange anyone. And, all the students are going to have the opportunity to take the kinds of courses that they need for whatever their future is going to bring them.
Yeah.
Neil, they're doing the same thing at the boat tech with the career clusters. It's the same concept.
Okay.
And I think kids are brighter today than they've ever been. They seem to know what they want earlier than we did. Give them credit. Anybody else? Ms. Sykes.
Jennifer Sykes, Montgomery Township. I just have one question about the same thing that he brought up. I agree with him. I just have a question. Is it only going to be open to 5.0 students, not 6.0 or AP level?
Well, right now, as I said, it's in the early stages of developing the whole idea. The target group of students are 5.0 students, with the understanding that someone who takes a lot of 6.0 courses has many connections already with some of the advanced courses that exist there. This particular group, which represents the majority of the high school, we're trying to accommodate through the whole concept.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily going to limit students completely to just, quote, 5.0 students.
Okay, because 6.0 courses are made to challenge the student.
That's right.
And maybe some 5.0 students that are capable of taking a 6.0 course might not take that course because they can do this school within a school and get those opportunities there where they might not be able to get. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, they might not be able to get them at the honors level, but they can handle it. But at the 5.0 level, they know they could do it. Do you know?
Certainly there's some choices that would have to be made along the way, but I know that those are some of the details that need to be worked out.
Okay.
And I know there's going to be input from students as well as the faculty as this whole concept evolves.
Okay. And another point, I'm a senior, and I only need 0.9 credits to graduate this year. And I only have to take 2 courses. But would that enable me to take, like, courses in business, like the rest, like 7 periods of business and, like, 1 period of math?
Exactly.
Okay. Is that what that's enabling to do?
Take advantage of the elective opportunities that you've had.
Okay.
The fact that you only need 0.9 credits is a credit to you.
Yeah, well,
Well, you
thanks.
don't want to leave in December, you'll miss the prom.
Yeah, well, I'm
So you got to take courses to stay in there, you know what I mean?
okay,
Okay.
but just my main concern about this is that the students will not be receiving a well-rounded education as their seniors because the most competitive schools are looking for a well-rounded individual in their senior year.
Exactly.
That's just my biggest concern about that. Students might opt to take the easy way out and do stuff they know they can handle in their senior year when colleges are not looking for that. That's my main concern with that.
Can't they do that now?
Excuse me?
Can't they do that now?
Yes.
Yes, but they opt not to do it sometimes.
It's a
because-
choice though, isn't it?
Yeah,
So this is
but this could give us
Just
an
another
easier
choice.
access, yeah.
just another choice.
That and many other issues I'm sure will come out of the
Okay.
minds of the students at the high school, and I'm sure Dr. Cotter's going to listen to all those ideas.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Abram, Upper Gwinnett. Just to revisit the graduation mandate, at curriculum level, we talked about the overwhelming task that this could become, given the numbers of students that will matriculate through our high school. And again, it's obviously a mandate that has no money attached to it. The concern that I would express, and I know it was mentioned by Dr. Cotter, and just to reiterate it, you know, if this becomes a mandate that in fact our students will have to continue to follow through on, because I think isn't there still a question about whether or not this is actually going to be required in subsequent years from the state? Isn't it still sort of out there with a question mark? That if it does become fact, that in fact we may need to consider attaching monies for staff time, because it seems overwhelming to think about monitoring the research projects of 900 students, and then as you bring another class through, as Dr. Cotter mentioned, you know, conceivably having 2,700 people writing research projects at the same time. But nonetheless, I give Dr. Cotter a lot of credit. His accreditation for growth, the academies, and the graduation mandate that he discussed obviously keeps them all very busy up there, and certainly it was a big part of our curriculum meeting, and we were all very impressed with his concept and the time that the staff must be taking up there to have to deal with all this. So we'll see how that mandate goes, but it sounds pretty interesting. Thanks.
Mr. Tabor. And you're right, Dr. Cotter's doing a great job up there.
Marie Schoen, Hatfield Township. I just want to congratulate this board for what they've done with the high school. I know it took a lot of courage, and I'm very happy that it's turning out as well as it is, with all due respect for future development. But I just want to say thank you.
God bless you, Mr. Schoen. Anybody else, please?
Kim Liu, Hatfield. I just want to question how North Penn rank our GPA. I'm speaking for a lot of my friends too, is that while we take 6.0 and honors and AP, our GPA sometimes is lower than people who are taking 5.0 classes and getting A's and B's. And I just think that's just...
Of course, you know that there's a weighting system with your
Mhm.
with the grading process, and so you're given credit for taking the more challenging courses.
Yeah.
That's the whole concept behind it. Now, your GPA benefits from that, and therefore the opportunity to get into colleges obviously is greater because of it.
Yet an A can be a 90.1, and it can also be a 99. And yet it doesn't take into consideration the weighted percentage. Yeah, it's only a letter grade. I don't understand how they can just determine a GPA, while I think sometimes it's selling us, like, you know, our honors students short, that like we should be receiving a higher class rank and yet at the same time a higher GPA.
Oh, you're talking about the GPA versus
And the class rank. Yes.
Or are you talking about giving A minuses, A pluses, and A's? I mean, is that?
Well,
I'm not quite sure what.
I think we're all concerned about like our percentage, but yet when it comes down to getting a class rank and getting a GPA, it doesn't matter if you have a 99 or an 89 or a 90, because it's just going to vary that within a 90 to a 99, it's going to be an A. Yeah, it's that, and it can just, you know, it can throw you off if you have an 89 and you don't have that 90.
That's right.
Is there going to be a change in that, or?
There's been discussions about being more refined with determining grades within a 10-point category. For example, between 80 and 89, that's a B. An 80B and an 89B are the same. There's been discussions about giving pluses and minuses and different grades, which could translate into different numbers and therefore give more credit to someone who has a high B versus someone who has a low B. That's a concept that is not necessarily part of the Academy's concept. That's an idea relative to class rank and GPA that really ought to be discussed with Dr. Cotter, because the high school staff, I know, has talked about it, but to my knowledge, they have no plans to institute something like that.
And I just want to stick up for myself. I take 6.0 and AP, and yet this year I'm doing work study, which is a 4.0 level at a bank. And you know how you're saying that it's an easy way out? Well, it's not an easy way out, because I'm suffering. My GPA is going to suffer this year because I'm going to go into a field that's business-oriented, and because I chose this way to get experience everything, I'm suffering this year because the work-study career is a 4.0, and yet it's an excellent program.
You have
And
the option of,
Mr. McLaren is a great coordinator. Just want to mention that too.
you have the option of opting out some of the courses that count in your GPA or your class rank, don't you?
I do, and yet all my courses are 6 out, but yet I'm missing 2 periods in a day, but yet I'm working an extra 6 hours a day at a bank. But yet I'm suffering because it's a 4.0 level.
That's a choice you had to make.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just wanted to stick up for myself when he was saying that it's an easy way out. It's not an easy way out. Thank you.
Thank you. Good point.
Okay. Anybody else, please?
Pauline Rosemartier Shepherd, Lansdale. Actually, what she just brought up was my question. With the academies and the specific area of studies that the children will be involved in, does that allow for the work study? It's been a long time since I've been in high school. I know there was a work study program when I was there, but I don't know on which level they're allowed to do that. And with the academies, will they be opted that time to do that, or is that totally separate?
I think I probably didn't emphasize enough. The academy concept is a concept. It's not anything that's automatically going into place without a lot more careful study and analysis. And we're going to be addressing all the questions that have come up tonight related to it, because certainly we don't want inequities. We want students treated fairly, and we want to reap the benefits of this concept and not create more problems. So I know that Dr. Connor is looking at all aspects of this and the impact of making these kind of changes.
Okay, and will be kept
You'll be kept abreast, and he'll be giving rather regular reports.
Okay.
He wasn't able to be here tonight.
It will require board approval.
Of course.
So there'll be a final and full presentation given at the time this board would need to make a decision upon the recommendation that's brought forward.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Dr. Veneva, if you could add to your notes for Dr. Hassler and Dr. Cotter that, this was probably the first time in ages we've had such fine young folks come forward and give us glimpses of their personal perspective on your initiatives. I think as you're gleaning information with teachers and parents, peers, et cetera, it shouldn't leave out some of these students that are very much part of that picture and bring a perspective that we don't have up here. The young lady in the back, particularly with her 6.0 and 4.0 concerns, were great. Also, Ms. Sykes had a good example. So if you can pull some of these key sort of students in, that would be helpful.
We'll do that.
I feel we covered all the bases. Anybody else, please? Okay, folks, let's take a short break. Technology is up next. It'll give technology an opportunity, Mrs. Klein, to set up, and let's get back here in 5 minutes. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is a board committee meeting work session of October 13th, 1998. This has been a meeting this evening that followed a special action earlier at 7:30. We have just finished up with curriculum and instruction, and we took discussion on a variety of topics and public comment on those. And we're about to head into technology. Turn it over to Dr. Venema.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Deddy is here with Mrs. Klein to talk about 2 items in technology. I'll turn it over to you, Carol.
We had a technology committee meeting earlier this month, and we had indicated that that we may be coming back with a proposal to buy the remaining computers for the technology, your one technology plan earlier than January, which is what we had originally planned. The result is that Compact Computer is discontinuing the model that we have been using. And as a result of that, they're reducing the price from $1,799 to $1,449. And it doesn't sound like a great deal of money, except when you multiply it out by the number 585, it comes to a considerable amount of savings that we have an opportunity to take advantage of. There is a limited inventory of those computers remaining. Debbie has thus far put a tentative hold on it so that we can get the reduced price. And we would be proposing at the next board meeting on October 20th that formal action be taken on the resolution to purchase the 585 compact computers.
Help me and those that don't understand computers why that isn't day-old bread in the computer world.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Mosey.
Compact and most of the vendors turn new models around every 3 to 6 months. And just to give you an idea of the specs, right now with this model that we're proposing are 300.
I don't know if the whole audience can hear you or not.
We can't hear you.
I think you need that microphone or better. TV can't, but nobody else
She
can.
speaks too softly
I
for
guess-
this board.
Mrs. Kleinfeld, would you go to the podium, please? We haven't seen you in so long.
You've missed it.
Thank you.
I guess the point I was trying to make is the Compact, like most manufacturers, they turn their models over every 3 to 6 months as newer and faster things come out. I've taken advantage of these types of things in the past, just towards the end of the cycle, and we're talking only a couple months old. You can get some very good prices. Difference in specs, just to let you know, the model we're proposing is a 333 megahertz versus the newer model at 350. Slightly more memory, you're going from 48 meg of memory to 64 meg of memory. The advantage to us, either way you look at it, is I know we're leasing these for 3 years, and at the end of 3 years, we have that option of turning them back. So I don't see it, for the savings of $200,000, I didn't see that was a big issue.
Debbie, just one quick, the motherboard going to say the same?
Yes.
The what?
Motherboard. The main board.
Oh, you're all so cool. Let's just throw these words around all night. Come on, Frank.
One of the questions it was raised at the technology meeting related to this concept that came up, and you've answered part of that, is that the models keep changing, and the computers that we're purchasing meet our needs, and that's the reason we went on a 3-year lease, so that at the end of the lease period we could upgrade and move ahead whatever the needs are at that time. The question I have, I guess it was related to that, though, the words it says here that we have an opportunity to finish our buying for this current year, once we're going to buy this current year, at a reduced price before their inventory is depleted. But in ensuing years, we may want to buy more of these computers. They're still going to manufacture this model, some line, and keep supplying us, right?
Newer models.
This one.
Newer models. This one, no, we won't have the opportunity to buy
phasing
this
this one
model in coming years.
Now, I guess the question then relates to the fact we're a year from now, and we need 25 more computers of like we have in the system now. What do we do?
We'll get a different model with a faster processor and more memory and what is available at that time.
At
in
our
the
same
market.
lease price that we're getting for now?
That seems to be holding constant. And again, now these are a year old. We only have 2 more years on them, where we have 3 on these newer. So again, the leasing plays into.
So what you're telling me, or telling the board, is the fact that we have an opportunity to buy this group at a lower price, but as we move ahead a year from now and to buy additional computers, we'll be getting the later model, which is compatible with the model we're using now as far as curriculum.
Correct.
At the same price as the lease that we've already entered into.
I mean, I can't I can't promise that, but it seems to be following that suit, yes.
Okay.
Everything's getting faster and faster, and the price is holding steady.
That's what I expected, but I just wanted you to say that, okay?
Debbie, when will we, in the normal course of operation, when will we schedule to bring these computers on board?
January.
So what exactly are you asking us to do?
Well, and you want to explain the financial implications?
Yeah, what we're doing is ordinarily we would have brought this proposal forward in the December board meeting for purchase delivery in January. We're bringing it forward for delivery in November, 2 months earlier, so that we can take advantage of the reduced price. We, in essence, will be paying rent for 2 additional months because we'll take ownership of in November. However, the cost savings, it's cheaper to pay 2 extra months rent on them than to buy them at the higher price come December.
Will they be used when they come in?
What we plan to do.
November and December?
What we plan to do, under the rationale, is the staging of the installation on a rolling basis. As the electrical in each of the elementary schools gets upgraded, we will be taking the computers and rolling them into the schools as they come online. So the other way, it was certainly appropriate. We were just going to implement everything all at the same time, all of the elementary computers the same.
We couldn't have put them all in at the same time anyway, could we? Let's be honest. 13 schools, we're going to set them all up. So we're talking for 2 months, we saved $200,000 and phase them in, which we would have done anyway. Why are we here?
Makes good sense. Obviously.
So you know everything that's going on?
I don't have a problem with, it's what came out of the committee. I don't have a problem with the early purchasing. Makes sense. I'm just concerned, this did not come out at our meeting, that they were phasing out this particular unit. And I don't want to get 3 years down the road where someone comes back before this board and says, what we bought is obsolete and we're back to square one again.
We're leasing, remember.
Well, I know that.
In 3 years, we're done with these units if we want.
You know, I'm just concerned with the fact that they're phasing this particular piece of equipment out. I want to make sure that what we have and what we're using is going to be here for a while.
Maybe we're misstating it. It's the models continue to change. It's not that this is being phased out.
I know what you're saying. I agree, but I just don't want
it's being
the
upgraded.
situation change in a couple of years.
I think it's important to realize that these are going to do the job that we had intended them to do. These models. And that's the key.
And the other concern I have is that you mentioned about the fact that we're going to have a $36,871 budget shortfall. I was under the impression the only shortfall I recall coming out of the meeting was the fact that we underestimated 7 schools that we were going to have to buy computers for. We needed 19 more PCs, and that was going to be around $32,000, which was going to come out of the contingency. Am I mixing apples and pears here? Or is that the same thing you're talking about?
I think that's talking about the second initiative.
Well, no, I mean, but I'm saying, Vince, if we're going to buy these things ahead of time in a savings, how are we coming up with a $36,000 shortfall?
I'm passing around a schedule. It's kind of tricky, so I wrote it down. It's on blue paper.
So because we're having...
Mrs. Steady, send out for you.
We're going to save, if we're going to save $80,000 or $90,000 a year.
There he is.
Why are we coming up with a $36,000 shortfall? I thought the only shortfall we had to address was the schools, the classrooms that we missed in the initial projection.
Well, yeah, I thought when we talked about it too, we were concerned that, well, first off, we wanted to see earlier implementation because of the electrical upgrades.
Don't have a problem with
and
that.
as they get upgraded, we wanted to make sure that we had the equipment to put in the rooms when they were done. We were happy about that early purchase part of it. But our concerns were also, because we get this stuff in October and November, do we all of a sudden have payments now, which we weren't scheduled to do?
That's right, we do.
And that's what the difficulty was for us, because we didn't budget for it. So we were hoping that with Carol's help and Debbie's help and our solicitor's help, that we can negotiate a deal where we'll take the stuff earlier, but we still want our same payment schedule.
It's still not answering my question.
There's one more payment schedule.
Still not answering my question. My question is, we did budget for 500 computers.
Right, January 1st.
We buy them now, February, March, or whatever. We have the money in the budget.
Right.
How are we coming up with a $36,000 shortfall if we're going to save $80,000 or $90,000
It's early.
by buying them early?
We're getting them early, so it's like we're paying a car early.
Gotta pay the payments.
But the money was in the budget, John.
No, December's payment is an extra month.
December's payment is an extra month.
Good.
Yeah, we were equally confused, that's why at the technology committee meeting, we weren't prepared with a recommendation. If you look at the blue sheet that's just been handed out, you'll see that there's the two options. One of them is buying them as we had initially thought in January at the cost of $17.99, and the payment for that was $1,052,000, as opposed to buying them now. And what you'll see in the first column is what we're proposing is that we make 3 payments this fiscal year in the amount of $71,331, 3 times, because it'll be 3 quarters, as opposed to 2 payments, purchasing them in January at $88,000 per payment. And when you carry that over to the next column, you'll see that what we're proposing has a cost this year of $213,000 versus, had we done it in January, it's a cost of $177,000 this fiscal year. So it's a shortfall of $36,000 this fiscal year. The $206,000 savings is over the 3-year period. It does not advantage us this fiscal year.
Okay, we're not saving anything this year.
Right, correct. You're saving it over a multi-year period.
Carol, can I ask you, the next line underneath that paragraph that talks about the shortfall says that based upon the current financial status of the plan, we believe that the year 1 technology contingency will cover the extra cost.
We discussed
that. To me is, you know, either you're planning a shortfall or you have a contingency fund, which is a legitimate use of the dollars, which contradicts.
Somebody on the committee want to answer that, or you want me to answer that?
I mean, yeah, would you clear that up as to why on one hand we expect the shortfall and on the other we say we have the money?
Okay, we had put a contingency together for the project, and as of the last committee meeting, we had a $110,000 balance in the contingency. At the committee meeting, we did identify certain areas or certain things that would be needed that were not budgeted for in the plan, and we're now saying that that $110,000, a part of that will need to be used to cover this cost. And the reason I'm saying this very cautiously is a contingency is, exactly as you said, supposed to be unearmarked. At this point in time, we're earmarking it for an obvious reason.
Well, that happens.
Any other questions? Brown? Any other questions?
I want Pat's other question answered about the change now of this 4240 ES model being changed to or not produced anymore. Question came up about, will this model still be continue to be warranted and serviced by this company?
Yes.
For the full term that we're going to have?
Yes. And just to give you an example, in the spring we purchased 4230s. They were slightly different model. Now we're 4240s, and they'll just continue to grow.
Evolve.
But yes, same 3-year warranty.
I didn't get to finish. I just wanted to tell you, Debbie, from my point of view, is that I think that it's very wise, as long as they're very high-level models, to go with last week's, because whatever we would purchase at top dollar this week is going to be an outdated model in a month or two. And quite frankly, I think that it's a very smart move to take advantage of those end-of-the-year specials like this, and in this case, the running monthly, I guess. And I think it's a wise use of our dollars. It could allow us to buy actually more computers that can get the job done.
Are these a 60 or 100 megahertz bus?
Are they what?
60 or 100 speed?
The ones, the 4240s are 300.
No, but the speed of the processing.
333 megahertz.
Right. It's the 100.
Pentium 2.
Right, there's a 100.
The 100?
Oh, awesome. That's what you're talking about,
That's
megahertz.
processing speed.
Yeah, so if we're way beyond that, okay.
Yeah, up to the 100, that's a good buy.
Yes. Sorry.
Still a hell of a platform.
Yes.
I mean, that Cadillac might be discontinued, but it's still a Cadillac.
Yes.
Just buy the darn thing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I just have one more question. The item that we talked about where we had missed some classrooms, the initial proposal. Will that be covered now with this purchase?
Can't wait to look like doors.
No?
No, we're not done.
So we're going to need another $32,000 for that out of contingency.
They haven't got that all together yet. They're not sure what that is yet. That can be brought forward later.
So aside from that, we're going to need to come up with $36,000 to do this.
Right.
What'd you say, Mr. Allen, if we ever talk about doors, you're gonna filibuster?
You're gonna be here for a day.
I heard that.
We buy them, boy, look at it.
Any other questions of Mrs. Khan? Thank you. Technology purchases, should we keep going, then I'll open up.
Yes,
for citizens.
at this point, then we'll put that on the agenda for 20th.
Folks, on the agenda?
Yes.
Number
Yes.
5?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 2, technology purchases, referencing a letter that was sent to you regarding laptop computers for technology trainers.
Madam President, once again, this is not available for the public.
No, this did not go through committee yet.
Well, I don't know about that, but this was not distributed to the public.
There's nothing.
It's not on the agenda.
Okay, hold on, just one person. Mr. Shapinsky, you started. Tell me.
The letter that we're gonna discuss now was not given to the
May I,
public.
you have a clean copy, no notes? I have it. Mr. Baldwin?
It's a memo. It's a memo.
Two-sided.
We don't even have it.
It was sent in the packet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Can we distribute this, Frank? Can we distribute this memo?
Sure. Running back.
What is, what's the, what the issue with respect? There's no privilege or confidential information. All right, that's fine.
Folks, we'll get that to you, but we're gonna keep going. Shapinsky, thank you.
Ms. Magel, in the back, talked about makeup of a PC.
Stop it. We'll get together. Yeah, we'll do lunch. Go ahead, Mrs. Denny. Kick off.
We'll have a class.
The laptop, go ahead and discuss those, the laptops. The need for them.
Clock's running.
The memo I had brought to Dr. Haslow's attention was,
You better use your platform again.
I guess with the goal in mind of, or at least my goal is to have the greatest impact on the students with the technology, so I'm always looking for opportunities and ways to further actually develop the teachers so that they can get these skills in the classroom. And one of the things that has always been, that always come to my attention was providing laptops to our teacher trainers, which we started off with, I think I've talked about it in the past, 23 teacher trainers throughout the district that have already in a couple short months done an unbelievable job in getting them self-trained and working with their colleagues. They hosted over 30 workshops during those in-service days, starting already to do a lot of work before school, during school, and after school, working with their teachers. Problem is then they have to go home and further develop their own skills. So my thought was to, we identified some grant monies that were not yet earmarked that we could use to purchase, or rather lease them, laptop computers so that they could move around and work in classrooms throughout their building, move around the district, and also be able to work at home to develop their skills to help in the classroom. So that was what I was proposing with this.
Debbie, do you see in a year or 2 or 3 decreased need for the teacher trainers?
Could possibly.
Or decreased workload on them?
Could possibly. I mean, in a perfect world, yes, everybody now has those skills, and we no longer need those mentors to coach the others. But right now, we're just in a trial stage, seeing how it works.
And you're talking about leasing them?
Leasing them for 3 years, so that they would be loaned to these teachers.
What's your guess on the cost?
I have the numbers here.
It's on the back.
The total cost would be about $42,000 with annual lease payments of about $13,000, $14,000.
That gets 23 or 30 of them?
21, actually, the way we have these. We have one of our teacher trainers is our librarian who has access to a computer, and the other two people share one job, so we only need 21 to fulfill all the trainers.
I'm going to say, I don't know if you know the answer, but last year, the year before, the MISE program distributed, I don't know how many laptops, a ton of them.
Right.
To a lot of teachers that were leased, we didn't pay for it, but I believe we had to give them back. Is that true?
Well, they're still in the district, and that's actually where a lot of this idea came from. My work with Dave Decker and how successful that program has been. So we were hoping to piggyback on that.
Has it been a successful program?
Yes.
As far as you know?
Yes. In terms of learning the skills, reviewing software, communications alone.
But we just think that this is a real advantage to the trainers. I mean, we want to get the best possible use out of those people and their skills. And with all the time constraints that are involved with working with these people, we just think that this is a real opportunity for them to communicate with one another and, quite frankly, to deal with all the issues that were outlined in Debbie's letter. Some real advantages as far as training is concerned, and our staff, and the impact it will have on them.
Ms. Klein, we're not going to need printers, are we?
I'm sorry?
They're not going to request printers?
No.
Just the laptop?
Yes, because they could always come to their classrooms or the labs at the school.
I read that. I'm just asking.
And just one more note. I often look at the research that's done and how much of your technology budget you should spend on staff development and whatnot. And they're always, they always talk that 25 to 30% better go to staff development. Well, I think we've come up with a pretty creative and innovative structure in terms of developing our staff, but at a pretty low cost. I think right now we're at about 2% of the total budget. So I saw this as a tremendous boost for the amount of money that we'd be spending.
Has there been any? It's got a DVD drive. Don't ask me. Our supplies don't tell. Do we have enough cost in there for our office supplies, the supplies? This in mind now, because there's things that are running cost.
And what did you mean by the supplies?
We earmarked, I think, $700,000. We need some supplies.
Oh, as part of the plan?
Yes, part of
okay.
the plan. We're now going to be spending more in supplies for these CDs. Is that going to significantly increase, or
no? And I didn't see
significant?
I didn't see any additional costs, even with the software. All of the software companies, there's a relationship where you can have a copy at home and at work. So we didn't even see an additional software cost in here, nor supplies.
Do we have that's another point. Do you have what's the word? You're restricted to so many users. By putting the software on the laptop, is that going to be more cost?
No, and that's what I'm saying. We have that ability to have a copy at home and a copy at school. So.
Do we have to have originals, or it's okay to copy?
It's okay to. It depends on the license. Every license is a little different, but typically.
License user, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Just an offshoot of this, you're talking about 21 laptop computers for these trainers. There was talk before, and I don't know if it's gone anywhere, I think, Carol, I heard it from you, the possibility of, not the district, but a mass purchase opportunity for employees, students, parents, for laptops, separate and apart from this.
There is. We've had this discussion, and the good prices that we're entitled to can be offered to employees. We have to find an agency, such as a credit union, and not ourselves, who are willing to hold the title or the lease, put up the collateral, so to speak. We haven't made a lot of progress on talking to different people. Teachers were pretty excited about that opportunity.
Why can't the union control themselves and get into an opportunity like this?
Right.
That with the purchase of so many of these, that there be bonus laptops thrown in for every so many sold. I think the union ought to bankroll themselves.
That's a good point. I hadn't even considered it.
I would think
PSEA has some credit.
I would think an individual teacher, if they could save a couple $100 and really want a laptop, they'd be willing to buy it.
I just think eventually people are going to want their own, and this 21 for the trainers is going to grow into 50 more for this department,
Yep.
and I think there's
Only if we let
opportunities
it.
on mass buying.
Only if we let it run in the wind.
No, I'm talking about the opportunity for people buying their own.
Just to be sure, there was, in our WhatsApp, there was the provision that the funding for the laptops can be obtained from additional grant funding, Title VI. And also reprioritization of the MICE funds. Is that still the intended source of the money?
Correct.
I didn't hear it mentioned here. It seemed like a
what's
good selling point. And
Oh, that's
when I
what, there was
checked
no,
on that,
yeah,
it
no
was-
impact to the funds allocated for the technology plan. We just found some funds, some grant funds that were not earmarked, is what I
Will
would
it be
say.
taking away from any other major initiatives that were planned instead?
No.
So then we
Just thought I'd double check that
we
that was.
over-budgeted grants.
One concern, though, with these grants and additional monies from MISE or wherever else they're coming from, that money comes with restriction on what we can use it for.
Right.
And MISE also has a limit to, I think, math.
Math and science.
And science. Now, these things obviously be being taught other things, what you want to call them.
Right, but that's what we looked at, and those numbers
And it
would be used
qualifies for
only
that?
for those math and science teacher trainers.
Yeah, we do have now.
So that they qualify.
With 21 math.
I just
sorry?
thought I'd bring that
21
up. I
math
don't
and
have that
science
formula
Wait a minute,
with
there's
me,
everybody
but
talking at the same time. Wait a minute. Mrs. Klein, go ahead, you were answering Mr. Mosey, I believe?
I said we have 21 math and
John.
science trainers?
There are four math trainers in addition to your elementary schools, which they all
No,
teach
I'm
math.
piggybacking on Mr. Sherpinski's question. We are restricted to what we can use those funds for, and you're saying you want to use some of the MISE money. Oh, I see. Only the 4 people involved with the math and science. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, we've checked to make sure they all fall within the
Yeah, because,
parameters of the
we
grant.
start throwing this grant money around and using it for, I don't want to go through another audit.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mrs. Klein, very much.
So this will be on the agenda.
Yes, sir. 5 people want this on the agenda? Super. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your time. Audience of citizens, after technology, any questions of the 2 proposals before you this evening? Mrs. Penman?
Is it safe? Bobby Penniman, Lansdale Borough. When I bought my 1995 car at the model year end, when the 96s came out, I saved a fair amount. Unfortunately, when I bought my January 1998 computer, if I bought it today, the same computer, I would be paying less than half for the identical computer, and it's a souped up, it's a Jaguar, let's just say. I'm concerned, I will never stand in the way of us buying more technology, as you probably could guess. But my concern is that the discount is only $350. And I would hope that before we made this decision, we did do some research that shows what other price drops have been from the time that we committed to the $17.99 price, which I believe was late in the spring, to now when the $14.49 price is being offered to us, because I really don't believe that that amount of discount is really market value. It should be considerably more of a discount. Thank you.
H. Bruce Gordon, Montgomery Township. Just another, I'll be diplomatic about this, another added person as opposed to an added boy goes to technology and finance again for what I feel like is we've learned to clip coupons. We've learned to find ways to save money that we can reapply to buying other things. And this is wonderful, the idea of saving money and getting equipment that, yes, it'll be outdated the minute we buy it. My wife doesn't watch a tape, so I can say, too, that the computer I bought in March, I could now buy $600 cheaper, which kills me. But I waited a year and a half to buy that one, so I wasn't gonna wait. But the fact that we can save so much money over the life of the lease here, and that money could be turned around and bought more computers in our schools is wonderful. And thank God for finding, funding resources and staying up on the technology. Sure, it's going to change the minute we buy it, but that's the way computers are these days. They're turning over even faster. Intel's already talking about 1,000 megahertz chip for a year and a half away, so can't worry about it.
Well, you know what else changes as fast as computers? Hair color. And we've got technology nerds on this board that know all about that. Anybody else, please? You sure, ladies and gentlemen?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.